Bortnikov.
Esteemed colleagues, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Federal Security Service of the Russian Federation, I am happy to welcome the participants of the 6th Moscow Conference on International Security. Moscow Forum is recognized as the most important sites where exchange of opinion is taking place on the most important issues of the day, and measures are discussed to neutralize the challenges and threats to the modern world. And part of them is international terrorism. Its global character is testified by the fact that despite protective measures taken lately, all regions of the world were suffering from terrorist attacks. And the leaders of the largest terrorist groups, like forbidden in Russia, the so-called ISIS, Jabhat al-Nusra, and also the remnants of structures like Al-Qaeda, knowing that they are facing complete destructions in the zones of their previous dominations, they started to change tactics. They move combatants to Afghanistan, Yemen, and in the depth of continent, and they're creating strong points and bases there. We're talking about the shaping of scalable terrorist network. Besides, we received data about negotiations of ISIS with other terrorist groups on the issues of unification. And at the same time, they have strong resources to continue their criminal activity. And their potential of MTO, the leading countries fighting terrorism, they have a multi-directional approach to this issue in order to eradicate of those archaic things of Cold War period and to be really effective in the front with the terrorists. We need to jointly generate comprehensive standards and integrated standards to define the logic, and the best platform to do this kind of work is the United Nations organizations. Lately, the problem of eradication of terrorism now is among the ideas of all political leaders. They are talking about internal and external platforms, and today we see the realistic assessment, and it is necessary to confirm that despite of calls to unite efforts on anti-terrorist track, the combat operations done by some countries independently and as part of a coalition do not resolve problems in this sphere. And the example is the resonance terrorist acts in Nice, Berlin, Istanbul, Berlin, London, Stockholm, and Paris. In our forecast, which we presented and gave at different platforms and forums on behalf of Islamic groups and foreign combatants, are proving themselves as a fact. And having passed ideological treatment and giving this experience in combat, and they're hiding their criminal activities, they come back to the native countries or to some other places which never were subjected to terrorist attacks, and the activity of such becomes more and more intricate. The propaganda becomes more aggressive, and the purpose of attacks and the tactics is more and more diverse. That pushes us forward, although the difference remains, for joint actions of military, political, and special character, and joint work of special forces and special services should deal with the creation of unified information massives where we could concentrate the data about the terrorist organizations and their accomplices where we have the information of their participation in terrorist attacks. A most important component is deprivation of financial resources from these organizations, and the leaders of these terrorist organizations, they find supports in many countries to support their activity. We see that in Syria and Iraq, in other places where a considerable number of people sacrifice themselves due to terrorist attack in suicide bomb killings. And the spread of terrorist ideology should be confronted by very active counter-propaganda to make terrorism the outlaw for the society. And this approach should be part of anti-terrorist strategy of a healthy part of the humanity. And the main points of threat remain Middle East and north of Africa. And the events of the so-called Arab Spring was also directed to democratize some of the countries and to make chaos, and which led in turn to very serious changes in the states where legitimate governments fight with armed detachments of terrorism. As a result of this, multi-million flows of refugees left their home places and went to different countries, and most of immigrants are young people, and they are not able to quickly adapt themselves in their new countries. And the special services, they have to understand how to work in this environment, to timely react to problems emerging, understand the reasons why these situations push the people towards extremist and terrorist activity. The situation with refugees and immigration could not be left without any attention, especially about the ideological work. And refugees and the processes are related to that. They are rejected by new society and new social media, which in turn causes aggression on their behalf. And when the authorities fail to accomplish this work, so these guys, they come to the actions directly. And here we see the growth of radical movements, even Nazi groupings, which attack migrants directly, and the political situation deteriorates, and criminal situation also becomes worse and worse. And there are many examples proving this fact. And we receive the materials from the special forces and also the investigation of criminal cases. The Federal Service of Russia Security Service has tremendous experience and exchanges this information with CIS and the competent services of the Shanghai Organization on Cooperation and many others. And we are convinced that potential of joint work to confront this threat is far from reaching successful outcome. And leaving behind the political disputes, we need to revise our viewpoints in order to bring as close as possible the joint positions. Nobody will be able to do it without us. And the Federal Service, Security Service of Russian Federation is very open in this sphere. Esteemed colleagues, I would express conviction that the results of this conference will make another step towards peace based on stability and mutual respect. I wish the participants of the conference successful work. Thank you.